The morning I had waited for my whole life should have been filled with warmth, nervous laughter, and maybe a few happy tears. Instead, I sat in front of the mirror in my childhood home, trying to steady my hands as I curled my hair. My mother hovered behind me like a shadow, her lips curved in that smirk I had known since childhood, the one that never meant anything good. She picked up the curling iron without asking, and I thought, foolishly, that maybe, just maybe, she wanted to help me look my best. But as I met her reflection in the mirror, her eyes were sharp, burning with something closer to resentment than love. "You really think you're glowing, don't you?" she sneered, her voice low enough so only I could hear. My sister, lounging on the bed in her silk robe, let out a little laugh, sipping her coffee like she was watching her favorite show. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video? I opened my mouth to protest, but before I could say anything, my mother pressed the hot curling iron against my cheek. The searing pain shot through me instantly. I gasped and jerked back, but she didn't move away. She pushed harder for just a second longer, enough to leave a clear red burn across my skin. Her laughter rang out, cruel and mocking. "Brides need scars to match their worth," she spat. My sister clapped like it was entertainment, her laugh echoing Mom's. My father walked in just then, saw me clutching my cheek, and instead of outrage or concern, he chuckled. "Good," he said coldly. "Now you won't outshine your sister. Let the guests see what happens when trash tries to act like gold." My vision blurred with tears, not just from the sting in my skin, but from the sharp sting in my chest. I had imagined walking down the aisle with my father's proud smile, with my family's support behind me. Instead, here they were, tearing me apart, branding me with humiliation hours before my vows. I ran to the bathroom, slamming the door, my cheek throbbing with heat. I pressed a cold cloth to the burn, staring at my reflection. I looked broken, but somewhere beneath the pain, beneath the humiliation, a fire lit inside me. Their laughter burned hotter than the iron, searing itself into my memory. Behind the door, I heard my sister's voice, dripping with cruelty. "Don't cry too much, sis. You don't want mascara running down your scarred face. You'll terrify the groom." My mother added with a chuckle, "If he's smart, he'll run before the ceremony even starts." Their laughter blended it into the sound of my father's deep, satisfied chuckle. I sank to the floor, clutching the towel to my face, silent tears running down my neck. I thought about the years of small humiliations, the constant reminders that I was never enough. This wasn't just about today, this was about everything they had done to me. And as the minutes passed, as their voices faded into the house beyond the bathroom door, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't let them win. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever again. My wedding morning had started in fire and cruelty, but it wouldn't end the way they thought. I wiped my tears, looked at my reflection once more, and whispered to myself, "You'll regret this." I stayed in that bathroom longer than I should have, the cold towel pressed against my cheek, trying to dull both the pain and the rage. Outside, I could hear footsteps, muffled voices, the sound of my sister's heels tapping the floor like a queen parading her throne. Every laugh, every cruel word seeped through the thin walls and wrapped itself around me like barbed wire. I thought about stepping out, about confronting them right then, but I knew it would be useless. They would only laugh louder. That's what they always did. Feed on my reactions, thrive on my pain. So I stayed quiet, let the silence sharpen my thoughts. When I finally emerged, my cheeks still red but my expression blank, they were waiting. My sister sprawled across the couch, scrolling her phone, acting like she was the star of the day. My mother sat at the table, casually applying lipstick, and my father was standing by the window, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. "There she is," my mom sneered, barely looking at me. "Our scarred little bride. Better hide that cheek under your veil. Or maybe you don't need one. You've already got enough to cover." My sister smirked, eyes flicking over me with cruel delight. "Honestly, it makes sense. You were never supposed to look better than me. At least now things are back in order." And my father, leaning back against the wall, let out that deep chuckle again. If your groom has any sense, he'll know what he's marrying into. Maybe he'll even thank us for showing him the truth before it's too late. I stood there silent, every word cutting deeper, but this time I didn't flinch. They wanted me to break, wanted me to scream or cry or beg for them to stop. Instead, I met each of their stares with a calmness that seemed to unsettle them. My silence was louder than their insults. That's when my mom narrowed her eyes. "Why aren't you saying anything? Cat got your tongue?" I shrugged, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Nothing worth saying." For a split second, her smirk faltered, and I saw it. The smallest flicker of unease. They weren't used to me holding back. They weren't used to me thinking instead of reacting. As the morning went on, I kept myself busy. I fixed my hair, adjusted my makeup, covered the burn the best I could. Guests began arriving to the house to see the bride before the ceremony. I watched how my parents and sister greeted them with fake smiles, pretending to be the picture-perfect family. They hugged people, laughed, and spoke warmly, but I knew the truth. And while they fooled everyone else, I noticed cracks in their act. My father's arrogance, my mother's need for control, my sister's constant craving for validation. They were so busy protecting their image that they didn't realize I was memorizing every weakness, every detail I could use against them. In between smiles and small talk, my mother would glance at me and whisper under her breath, "Don't embarrass us today." My sister would brush past me, her perfume overwhelming, muttering, "Hope he doesn't leave you at the altar when he sees the burn." And my father, shaking hands with guests, would look back at me and sneer, "Stand straight. At least try to look like you belong here." Each time I stayed quiet, but in my silence I was planning. The hours leading up to the ceremony felt like walking through fire, but the burn on my cheek was nothing compared to the blaze in my chest. I knew that the only way to make them stop wasn't to cry or beg. It was to hit them where it hurt most, their pride, their perfect little image. As I adjusted my veil in the mirror, I whispered again to myself, "You'll regret this." Only this time it wasn't a promise, it was a plan. The wedding hall glowed with soft lights and floral arrangements, but all I could feel was the throbbing on my cheek under the veil and the weight of my parents' eyes on me. They stood near the entrance, smiling proudly at guests who had no idea what had just happened hours earlier. My sister paraded around like she owned the place, soaking in every compliment as though it was her day, not mine. I walked slowly, my fiancé waiting at the altar, but behind every step I felt their cruelty pressing down on me. The whispers from earlier echoed in my head. Brides need scars to match their worth. Now you won't outshine your sister. Their words had scarred me deeper than the burn, and I knew I couldn't let them get away with it. Not today, not ever again. As the vows began, I glanced around the room at the hundreds of guests who believed they were witnessing a fairy tale moment. But beneath the music and the smiles, I saw the perfect chance. This wasn't just about marrying the man I loved. It was about finally breaking free from them, exposing them in a way they never saw coming. When it was my turn to speak, I took the microphone. My fiancé squeezed my hand gently, thinking I was just nervous. But when I started, my voice was steady, sharper than it had ever been. "Everyone here sees flowers, lights, and smiles," I began, my words carrying through the hushed room. "But let me tell you what really happened this morning. While you were all on your way here, while you were sending us your love and blessings, my mother burned my face with a curling iron." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother's fake smile cracked instantly. My father stepped forward, his face darkening, but I raised my hand, stopping him. "She laughed," I continued, pulling my veil back slowly to reveal the faint burn marks still visible through my makeup. "She said, 'Brides need scars to match their worth.' And my father?" He laughed too. He said, "Good, now you won't outshine your sister." The silence was deafening. Guests looked from me to my parents, their faces a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. My sister let out a nervous laugh, but no one joined her. I turned toward the crowd fully now, my voice unwavering. All my life they've told me I was less, that I was trash, that my sister was the golden child and I was the shadow. They beat me down, mocked me, humiliated me, but today, on the one day they should have stood by me, they tried to ruin me again. My mother hissed, "Stop this nonsense," trying to lunge forward, but several guests blocked her, shaking their heads in disgust. My father muttered, "You ungrateful brat," but his words were drowned out by the murmurs spreading like wildfire through the hall. And then I smiled, the first real smile of the day. You always cared about appearances, about what everyone thinks of you. Well, here it is. This is who you are, cruel, abusive, heartless, and I won't be your victim anymore. I handed the microphone back to the officiant and turned to my fiancé. He looked at me with tears in his eyes, not from pity but from pride. He nodded. "We don't need them," he whispered. But I wasn't done yet. I turned back once more, my voice colder now. "You called me trash. You tried to scar me. You thought you owned my future, but today, in front of everyone you tried so hard to impress, I'm giving it back to you. The shame you wanted for me. It's yours now." Guests began turning on my parents, whispering, glaring, some even shaking their heads openly. A few relatives walked up to me, hugging me, telling me I didn't deserve this. My parents' faces drained of color. My sister, furious that the spotlight had shifted, shouted, "She's lying, she's making this up." But the mark on my cheek said otherwise. I took my fiancé's hand and together we walked out of that hall. Behind us, I heard the chaos begin. Voices rising, people confronting my parents, their carefully built image crumbling in minutes. Outside, the cool air hit my face, and for the first time in years I felt free, not because I married the man I loved, though that mattered, but because I had finally destroyed the hold they had over me. They thrived on control, on secrets, on pretending to be perfect, and I ripped that mask away in front of everyone they cared about. That night, as I sat with my husband, still in my gown, I looked in the mirror. The burn was still there, raw and red. But for once, it didn't feel like shame. It felt like proof of what I had survived, proof of what they had done, and proof of the moment I finally turned the tables. They wanted me scarred, broken, forgotten. Instead, I left them scarred in the only way that mattered to them, their pride, their reputation, their standing in the eyes of everyone they knew. And I knew they would never laugh at me again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.